I'm going to try to describe what you're doing when you're trying to tune a PCP. You have an regulated air pressure, which is how much air pressure is available in the plenum to force a pellet or slug down the barrel and out. It's a balance between that and your hammer spring adjustment. I've made this a little adjuster here so you didn't have to reach through. Makes it much easier. And also the transfer port adjustment. So what you're trying to do, if you can picture in your mind, is you're trying to give a pulse of air from the beginning of your barrel to the end of your barrel, and you want that pulse at the end of the barrel to be over. Now, how hard and how much air you hit is depending on what you're wanting to do and what projectile you're pushing down the barrel. But you want that barrel that pellet or slug to be accelerating down the barrel, and when it gets to the end, you want to use up all the pressure that's in the air pulse that you sent out, so that the pellet at that point is actually outrunning the air behind it. And let me explain why I believe that is. Once you get to that point, at the end of your barrel, you have what they call the crown, and then you also have the base of the pellet or slug. And when that pellet or slug gets to the end of the barrel and just starts to peak out, if you're forcing the air out past that at the same speed as the pellet, one, you're wasting the air. Anything more than that, it's just a waste because you're not accelerating the pellet. And second of all, if it's coming out like that at a great amount, what happens is if there's any defect in the base of the pellet or slug and the crown, you will cause inaccuracies. And so what you want to do is you want to balance it to where when you get to the very end, you've already reached your target speed, and the pellet or slug continues, and you're not wasting any air, and you've reached your objective. Now, what speed you want and how much force that you want behind that is determined on what you're shooting, what your objectives are. If you're shooting pellets at relatively short distances, and when I say relatively, say 50 yards and under, it's not that hard. Doesn't require that much speed. So you may not be, and especially if you're shooting targets, you can use a light pellet like a Crossman that you get at Walmart. That's 14 grains, I think it is, on a 22 caliber, and so it doesn't require a lot of air. A pellet, most of them, you want to stay between 920 and 980 feet per second. Is where I like running them. You may find that your particular gun and ammo combination might be less than that or higher than that. But anyway, what you can do is you start out with a relatively light regulator setting, say 107 or 1007 1700 psi, and you adjust your hammer spring to the minimum, and you start bumping it up. Now, what I normally do is if I'm I pick out the heaviest slug that I want, and I put the transfer port wide open, and then I start with a milder setting on my PSI on my regulator, and then I start with no hammer spring on the Karma EQ, and then I start bringing it up. Now I'm going to tell you from experience with at least my EQ, anything below about 2000 to 2100 psi, if I open up this hammer spring at all, my accuracy will go to total crap. So about 21, 22, I can start adding. Now right now I'm running between 23 and 2400 psi. My the gauge, I have a hard time being sure if it's exactly where it's at. So then I start opening up the hammer spring adjustment until I either reach the speed that I want, or if I keep cranking it open, if I quit gaining velocity, and then I back off a little bit, and then I crank up the pressure a little bit more. And what will happen is if your projectile, the limits of the gun, you can get it where your shot count starts dropping. On a slug, most of them, again, they like above 980, and I've had several that I can push up higher than that. But what happens is I start using so much air that I just don't like it, so I cut it back. But anyway, I'm running about 2400 psi, and the hammer adjustment is between the first notch and the second, with the transfer port set at 100%. Now, with that being said, once I get that set, what I can do is I can use a lighter pellet or slug, and I can cut back on the transfer port and still get decent accuracy with a lighter slug with the transfer port closed down, and that stops you using so much air and slows down the lighter pellet. I've got a couple of videos where I told you that I was shooting the AEA long range masters at 100%. I think it was 6 for their heavy pellet, and then down 2 notches off the minimum, I was shooting the Crossman hollow points, and at 47 yards, hitting a 1 1/8 inch flipper target, just ding, ding, ding. So these current settings, I'm using the dead center 22 caliber, and at 47 yards I was trimming the brush off around my targets, you know, the vines and stuff. I wasn't hitting them every shot, but pretty reliably, so you can't ask for any better. But there again, you want your air pulse to be finished accelerating your pellet or your slug before the end of the barrel, because you don't want that thing to poof out at the end. I hope this helps you, and if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day, and we'll keep the lights on for you.